Hello, everybody. Welcome to my yearly um, patron of the algorithm podcast, the podcast with the best name of all time that no one can ever fuck with. Today, I have a special guest, which I mean, all my guests are special in one way or another, but I have a guest with a face. This is not Mr., just Travis Harrison. And actually usually have guests introduce themselves. So yeah, just give us a little blurb about yourself and then we can, start the podcast.
Hey, Maple. How are you?
Doing all right. Doing all right.
Yeah, I'm Travis Harrison. I'm a New Yorker. I've been working in the music business for my whole life, running a recording studio and recording bands. I'm a musician, a engineer, producer, a dad, yeah,
And
rock.
I specifically, there's a kind of funny story because, I told you this whenever let me turn down my audio. Actually, I just realized that I'm pretty loud. I have it really compressed. So yeah, the funny story is I was on eBay one day. I was just like, doom scrolling on eBay, just wanting to purchase something to feel emotions. And
Yes.
it happens all the time. And I got a bunch of CDs, which actually have the stack of CDs right here. You can't see them, but you could hear them. I don't know. CDs. And I got a rack of CDs because I was like, oh man, I love CDs. I collect CDs. Behind me, I have literal boxes and boxes of CDs. I have like 200 of them, right? Big CD collector. Cool. And so naturally, I was like, oh, I get 10 CDs for like, I don't know, it was like $10 or something, right? Okay, I see that. And I'm like, indie rock. I like that. But I sure do like my bands, right? And so the package comes, and I see on the back of every CD, it's like Serious Business Records with this like black and white kind of like, I guess what's it called, like
a two-tone kind of logo. It has like and it's got like typewriter font on it.
Yeah, kind of like old style, like 80s punk rockish logo, kind of in a way. And
Kinda, yeah.
and I saw on the box, I was like, Travis Harrison. I was like, wait, that's looking up that record label, like, is it the same guy? And so I go and email him, like, it's the same guy. So I look into this record label, and it's this like interesting history behind this record label. I'm like, okay, let me go and see if I could just solicit an interview with the with the owner of this record label, the founder of this record label, and just kind of find out, what's the history of this record label, what's the vibe, how was the experience, right? So yeah, so basically that's the whole point of this interview, kind of just like seeing, the history of the record label, how Mr. Travis, I don't say Mr. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's cool, man.
Mr. Travis
that's
is
cool.
doing.
I like it.
Mr. Travis is doing, and really just kind of like, digging into this little like, I guess hobby of sorts, because I always like learning about new things. I always like excuses to learn about new things, and
yeah,
I might as well ask him directly from the horse's mouth, So
yeah, totally.
So but first. But first, I have to ask you another question before you start on the record label stuff, because it's gonna get really deep in. I wrote a lot of questions here. So the first question I ask, I used to do it sporadically. Now I'm making it consistent. What's your favorite cartoon? It's seemingly common question. Break the ice.
When I was young, I was a child of the '80s, so I would watch the Saturday morning cartoons, like there was a He-Man cartoon, there was G.I. Joe, and there was WWF. But then my animation appreciation vaults to like The Simpsons. And yeah, so I guess I'll just roll with that.
The Simpsons is your final answer?
Yeah, I guess so.
All right, we're locking that in as the answer. Travis Harrison's favorite cartoon is The Simpsons. Do you have a favorite episode you remember?
So.
Or just like just like what I watched was ever on?
Well, my favorite. I remember when The Simpsons was on. When it first came on, it was like a part of the Tracy Ullman show,
Mm.
and it was like the little shorts that came on. So I'm like super old. Like I remember the first season of The Simpsons.
Oh, like the talk
But
in
then
between the talk show.
yeah, yeah, and yeah, it was like on the Tracy Ullman show. It was like a sketch comedy show, and then I remember seeing the first season of The Simpsons, and then I always watch it. I don't know, fucking best episode. I don't know.
Just whatever episode
Call me
you're
on the
using.
heels, bro.
All right. So
Yeah.
any episode that's like this on, you're like, oh man, this is from the era I remember, like season one. Let's say I always say the people from the Simpsons fans, right? They're always like season 1 through 9, the golden age, quote unquote. So I'll lock you in as just like that era, because when people usually say, all right,
Yeah. Old.
yeah,
Put me to old. Pilot. Put me on the
the
pilot.
pilot, okay, we'll put that on.
Ay caramba.
Actually no, we'll put you on the Tracy Ullman shorts, all of them.
Tracy Ullman shorts, man.
All right,
Way cooler.
yeah, because you'd be like, I was there since day one. I was an OG Simpsons fan.
I was a young boy then, but still.
So yeah, we have you locked in as that. That's why I always like asking that question, because you get a lot, you know a lot about a person from their favorite cartoon, you know.
On.
And everyone has one. Everyone has one. So now, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Now you can talk about the record label. So yeah, so a lot of to talk about here.
No. Well, it's wild, the record label part of it was always kind of it started as just an outgrowth of just being in a band and being in New York City and not having a record deal or not having any access to the industry or resources or anything like that. So it's just something that people do. They start record labels, like little things. And we were inspired at that time by, I guess, anything from like SST to DFA. A lot of different labels based around local scenes that were like legendary in our mind, and we figured why not give it a shot. But and ours was kind of based around the idea that we had our own little recording studio, and the band at the time that we were doing was called the Unsacred Hearts, and we were it was the people involved in that were my childhood best buddies, and we just had kept it going since we were kids. We were called different things along the years. And it was not serious. So it was just like literally a fake label. So that's why we called it Serious Business.
So it's like
it was-
opposite of it, yeah.
Absolutely. And we had to make our own CD, and we just wanted to put something on there, But at the same time, the bass player in the band was a college friend of mine named Andy Ross, who also had made a record of his own music, and that project was called Secret Dakota Ring. And Andy and I were working kind of together, hanging out all the time, and we had started our own little fledgling recording studio. This little kind of just like, so we started in a series of 2 different one-room shacks without bathrooms, and then we finally rented a place in Brooklyn and started having bands come and record bands. And so the recording studio always kind of was running parallel with the label. But in the early years of that all happening, this is around 2000. The idea for it probably started around 2003, and it went into practice, in 2004. Yeah, around that time that all that was happening, like we're doing the studio, so just recording different bands. People are coming through, and people we got along with sometimes would just say, can we be on your label? And in the beginning, our answer was absolutely.
Sure.
So that's basically what the early kind of catalog was. And then there were some friends from college. There were two, from both and people that we knew from our different backgrounds that kind of just were there at that time. So we had the Two Man Gentleman Band who were doing kind of like this old timey kind of music, and then we also had Dracula Zombie USA who was doing this kind of weird Aphex Twin slash Lightning Bolt kind of punky electronic weird music, and we had Kickstart who was doing like 70s-ish kind of punk rock music, and we had Man in Gray who were doing like a very like indie Sonic Youthy, noisy 90s-y kind of stuff. We had no focus at all. And the Unsacred Hearts and Secret Dakota Ring, the Octagon were indie rock. It was all kind of just like randomly assembled just by, can we be on the label? Oh, okay, sure. And so the early years was that, and it just kind of built up because it was way cooler to have other people who wanted to be part of our fake label than just having a fake label on our own. But we did CMJ showcases. We did, stuff started to happen. We had a great website because at the time, because Andy was a web designer. Unfortunately, that website is totally gone. You could find it on the Wayback
the
machine.
archive of it.
Yeah, but he built it on Ruby on Rails, and it was kind of, on one hand, it was like really good to. It was a whole back end that he built, and it was really fun and easy to update it and keep it going and all this stuff. But it just, when the time came years later in the early 20 teens, when it just kind of like, my focus was, everybody had kind of moved on and whatever. The website just went defunct, but so that sucks because
Yeah.
But I would like to bring that back and kind of like celebrate that time in the future. But yeah, and then eventually it did get a little bit more focus, and it kind of shifted focus to a different kind of group of people and a different bunch of releases that were kind of more like a songwritery kind of a thing, kind of with a kind of 70s kind of aesthetic, with Higgins, Rocket Ship Park, and Benji Kosa, three artists that we put out a bunch of records from that were great artists. And we did a record from a band called Looker, who were kind of like a power pop, great kind of three women songwriters. Sadi was also a great woman songwriter who also did this incredible like dance music. So we just had this weird eclectic stew of friends of mine that just created it just a community of sorts when we were all friends, and it was a fun, crazy thing. But it never like caught on to being real, so it stayed just serious business.
So whenever you had the because I'm looking at this, I did a little bit of research. Whatever was on Wikipedia, whatever is still archived left of it, right? You had was it like two? Do you think there's like when did you sign on your first personal musician? Like, I guess you had like the first couple of bands that were just like the single solo product years between you and Andy and was it Joe Willie was the vocalist of Sacred Hearts?
Yeah, Joe Willie is the Unsacred Hearts main man.
So like outside of like the first two, like I guess acts or albums, like who was your first do you remember like your first couple of people you signed on aside from that?
Yeah, well, there was very rarely
Was like I guess like quote unquote signed.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm just thinking back. So early on there was a band called Man in Gray, and I still remain friends with members of Man in Gray, great people. And there's a funny story about how we met. Um, back when we were first starting, Andy and I were first starting the studio and we're first starting to get going. We needed clients. We needed people to come in and record with us, So we were like, "What do we do?" And a friend of ours named Aton, who's a great guy, had the idea. He was like, "All right, what you should do is go on Craigslist and offer a day of free studio time, cut it up into 2-hour chunks or something, and try and see if you can get 5 people to come for 2 hours a piece for free. And then, if you can get one of those people to come back and book a day, then it's a worthwhile thing." We were like, "Okay, pretty good." We're right out of college. So we did that. And we booked, we were able to find 5 people to come for 2 hours of free studio time. But the first artist who showed up was this 5-piece, totally badass, totally loud rock band. So we were totally inexperienced, having no idea what the hell we're doing. 2 hours. What are we going to do? And the idea that a band would just show up with all their amps and then like set them down and be like, "All right, let's record." And then what? So, but we somehow were able to pull that off because the little studio we had was just set up with whatever we had to record our little band. So there was a drum set there, and there's a bass amp, and there was a couple guitar amps, and they might have brought their guitars and maybe an amp or two. And the singer was totally badass, Christina DaCosta, and she just ripped it the fuck up. And they just we were in just one little room, and she was screaming. And it was wild, and we were like, "Wow, these guys are so cool." So they just instantly became our friends, and we started, Unsacred Hearts started playing a lot of shows with them. And that little EP that we made in that day, on that first day of 2 hours of free studio time, which they came back to overdub and fix and whatever, we mixed and figured out how to present it. It became this EP called No Day, No Night, which became a de facto record in our catalog, even though at the time they were just a band who just pressed up their own CDs and released it. And I was probably in the stack that I sent you.
Yeah.
And that was just a wild, chaotic day. So I guess Man in Gray was the first. And then we wound up doing later an album with them that was not in that stack because they actually went on to, play shows, and they got rid of their CDs that they recorded of their album. Their later released their album. But yeah, I would say Man in Gray. That's my answer on that question.
Because I hadn't had the opportunity to listen to all of them. I listened to was it Man in Gray, the Kickstart record, and a little bit of the I think I listened to the Dracula Zombie, I think it was a shorter record. I think it was longer. So, yeah, and even within those, there's a pretty eclectic catalog of genres. You have there's a lot of different genres. I was impressed by the sheer. I was I didn't know record labels even did that wide of genres still.
They didn't, and that's why we probably didn't get very much traction, dude, like that, and even we would do, we definitely kind of, I would say in the early years, it was more the label was kind of like a vehicle for us to release the first Unsacred Hearts EP, which was not in the stack because we ran out of them and whatever. And through that, and as we started doing the studio, we accumulated a bunch of releases from this eclectic kind of group of bands. And but a lot of them just had the same people, me and Andy, on Sacred Hearts. And then me and Andy recorded that Man in Gray thing. And then Dracula Zombie USA was me and Andy with Andy's old buddy named Will Schachterly, and or Willie Shakes, or
50 nicknames for the same guy.
Yeah. I just gave away his government name there. He was Will Collision in Dracula Zombie USA. It was Andy Influence, Will Collision, and Travis Gravitas. But that was Will's thing, and Will was into all this crazy cool music that was blowing my mind at the time. He was really into he was really into like Aphex Twin. He was a
Mm.
major Aphex Twin guy. And then he was really into like Converge. So he was into like hardcore. He was from Massachusetts, and he was really into hardcore, that kind of like scene of that, like, I don't know, that like northeast hardcore of the early 2000s. And he was also into Lightning Bolt, who were really, they came out of the Rhode Island area in that time, and they
Oh, I
were
didn't
kind of
know
like an
that.
arty hardcore band.
Yeah,
So
I've heard
with
of them.
all of that, he was creating all this stuff in Reason, early Reason, these weird, glitchy, fucked up uh pieces of music that then Andy would help him kind of like put vocals on, and they started this little thing called Andy Influence and Will Collision. And then but Travis was hanging around too, so they gave me the name Travis Gravitas, and then next thing you know, I'm playing drums over all this stuff, and we made that album. And I still look back fondly on that album. It is a wild, weird, totally stuffed to the gills, kind of strange. It's just strange music, uh, but it was really fun. It was like kind of party music, and we wound up. Uh, we played a couple of shows at like law parties. One of them was in our studio space, which was in East Williamsburg, in a building called 538 Johnson, which is kind of a legendary building. You can look up
Wait, 30
538johnson.com,
Johnson.
I think it is, and there's like all this information about it. But like there were crazy loft parties there, and so we did one there, and it was cool. It worked amazing as this like party music. It was just kind of like Andy playing bass, and then Will and his future wife Danielle doing vocals, and then I was playing drums, and it was just crazy dancing and party and all this fucking wild shit. And but then Will and Danielle moved away. They had to, life
Yeah.
happens. Andy moved away, uh, and but I kept doing shows in New York with other people as Dracula Zombie USA for a little bit, but then with the idea and that it would be franchised, and Will was going to do it in San Francisco, Dracula Zombie US, a West Coast annex, and we would do it, but that was very short lived. But we did wind up doing some shows in New York, and they were really fun. But it wasn't, it was just we were kind of it was kind of pre-recorded music with live drums and live vocals on top, and it was fun. It was crazy. The music was just like really fast and like really like really insane. uh so yeah, and that couldn't have been as different. There's not, that was like the catalog number, that was like SBO 5, I think, and then like or 6, but like 05 was like the two-man gentleman band, and that was like our two friends from college who were dressing up in tuxedos and busking outside, singing double entendre, like dirty songs with a banjo and an upright bass, and like they were literally trying to like, they were like working as buskers like in Central Park, and their shit caught on, and they kind of like wound up going on tour, but they were like in this Americana scene, so it couldn't have been as more different than Dracula Zombie USA. And then Unsacred Hearts was kind of like this. Yeah, it was just all so different. It was just, we were like, it was totally schizophrenic, you know.
And I wanted to ask. I stumbled upon the this all music blog, and I know, like, man, they don't make blogs like they used to. Like they had this I guess coverage of one of your showcases at pianos, which I think was one of the bars, right? Like,
Yeah, that would have been a CMJ showcase.
yeah,
It probably like 2007.
yeah, 7. That's exactly
Yeah,
October 17th, 07.
yeah. There was, and then starting then we did a few years after then, and I could tell you about the kind of like, because it did kind of morph into something that had a little bit of a different focus to it,
Really?
but in the years after it, but it was still always crazy and schizophrenic. But
Because they have all those people you mentioned. You have Benji Casa, you have Rocket Ship Park, you have Two Man Band, you have Unsacred Hearts, you have Looker. Like, all of them performed in that that one place in that, like, you had the whole showcase of the whole, like, quote unquote label in that one show.
Right. That's yeah, we did that. And we tried in the later years we tried to kind of lean into that more, tried to throw more events that kind of brought everyone together and whatever. And it was fun. We had some really good shows and had some good experiences.
And so for the label, right? Because
Hmm.
considering I saw that, I was like, how? So it was like a community, right? It was like you all, because you all knew each other generally, like, either if you didn't know each other personally from college or just as friends of friends, and you would have been like, oh, you could just come to our studio, you could record something, this and that, like one of those like
Yeah,
communal kind of labels.
in a way, yeah, it was like that. It wasn't like a record label that was like out there trying to like find talent to like be successful or like start a label to do any kind of labely kind of things. It was really the label was just a umbrella that kind of like I mean it just became an umbrella for like what I was doing at the end of the day.
Mm,
And but it started it was me and Andy. But Andy early on in 2005 he moved to Los Angeles and within a year of him uh, getting to Los Angeles, he joined the band OK Go. Um, so, Andy started a career with them, and it was awesome. So we always had that kind of like, I was kind of like stayed really close with him,
mm,
and we did a record in 2007, I think it came out. That was his second solo album as Secret Dakota Ring. That kind of like tied in people that wound up like uh, like Josh Kaufman, who was uh, the main man behind the group Rocket Ship Park, which is his kind of like solo thing.
right.
But but that now since then, Josh has gone on to have an incredible career. He's in the band Bonnie Light Horseman, and he's a super successful producer. He's produced, Bob Weir from the Grateful Dead and Craig Finn from the Hold Steady and tons of artists. And he was kind of part of a lot of the records that we did in the later years of the Serious Business Records thing, like in 2008 to 12, with Benji Kosa, who's an incredible songwriter, and Higgins, who's an amazing band, kind of centered around the songs of Kevin Fish. Um, but like really crazy good musicians. And yeah, it's crazy to even think back around that time how like there was, it's just there was kind of like a line through that whole thing. Even
Because
though it was wildly eclectic, it did like it all kind of there was a thread.
like I noticed that because there was doing research a little bit for this interview. I had this book lying around that I got for like $5 called "This Must Be the Place" by Jesse Rifkin, right? And that's kind of a
I know Jesse.
yeah, there's like that's
Yeah.
there you go. You already know. So that was a lot of coverage of the various like scenes or like various like I guess it's more about each individual like place where people performed. I guess, and
Totally.
so yeah, there's
Shout out to Jesse Rifkin. I know Jesse. I know he used to have a band called Jane Eyre that I recorded.
it's so fun. Does everyone in New York already know each other? Like, is that just how it feels up there,
Well,
over there?
I guess it is a small world in the sense that there's just like, yeah, there's like, if you're trying to be around music and, or, I mean, I guess we're honed in on a genre, this is, even though as wildly eclectic as all this is, like, it really is all within this, like, indie rock world kind of, and, yeah, you just like run into people, and you just like I don't know, but yeah, I know Jesse's had success as a with his writing and different endeavors, and yeah, he's a really cool guy.
There's so many different like avenues because I literally would see in the book like they'd start entire scenes because someone would just see someone on the street playing an instrument, or they'd be like, oh, this dude I know, talk to him, I saw him at a show, blah blah blah. Like it, I it's kind of shocking, like, because comparatively to now, like, there's a lot different way people go about community, right? It's like, because it almost feels like utopian in the way that New York like functions back then, where it's like it just felt like everyone was just like in this same kind of place, doing these same kind of bands, talk to each other,
Yeah.
communicating, all this stuff.
You are bringing up a point that is amazing. That the iPhone didn't come out until 2007. And I feel like, it wasn't until then that like social media really like, I mean, I guess before that it was the MySpace era.
It's not the
And I guess,
same.
yeah, you know, um, but like once the iPhone came out, like everything started changing so fast. And then like, I don't know, but like we were on the cusp and like we were in this time when it was before smartphones. It was before streaming anything, and it was before streaming video for sure. You know, and it is kind of like it is weird to think because it wasn't that long ago. Like we had the internet, like
Yeah.
it was not like so long ago, but it's the cusp.
Culturally, it's a while though.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. But it's the cusp because like a few years before that, there was no internet. I went on a tour. My first tour I ever went on was 2002, 2003. And there was GPS ish kind of.
Yeah,
But like
MapQuest.
we literally printed out on the computer, like we printed out MapQuest
Oh
sheets
man,
and
I remember
put them in a
MapQuest.
3-hole punch binder, you know? Like that's wild. Like thinking back on that, that's crazy.
Like, yeah, now
But
it's the same, different, completely different world. Yeah.
yeah, and just like but you're talking about community, and like at the time, we were, we were promoting our shows and stuff and our events online, and it was like MySpace and then early Facebook days for sure, and then we had our own website, and like I don't know who was actually going to it, and like, but it was like we were regularly like updating it and like promoting it and trying to get people to go to it. But there's also like there was an analog function still like part of the promotional like programming that I had, which never really worked that well, so whatever. But was hard copy flyers, dude. Like I was fucking making flyers and
Printing them
up.
out. Wow.
Dude, and like I got tickets multiple times. Like I had like I always all my bands I would always like print out flyers and then go hang them up. And I like when I was in college I had a work study job where I like worked for the campus, like a campus organization that needed to promote through flyers.
Mm.
So I would go pick up my flyers to go promote for the campus organization. Like it was like the theater on campus, and I would also promote my band's flyers or whatever. And then but as time went along, I still did that. So all through these early years of serious business records, I totally remember all the flyers. I still have them. I should like put them up. Some of them are cool. Some of them are, if I made them, they're probably pretty ugly. But like we would do definitely like hard copy flyers and little handouts and shit. So when you do a show, you give out flyers for your next show. So it was like this weird cusp time between like things being like super analog and things being super like, like it is now where everything's like online,
It's kind of funny that you say that because the reason it's called Patron of the Algorithm is kind of this is podcast because really the whole thing about it is that initially I made this podcast or any podcast as an excuse to just talk to people online in a more structured format than just DMing them and saying hi, and
Right.
get to ask more like questions in like an interview sort of sense, right? And
Right.
it really is a matter of like to make that kind of communal situation happen, you have to put a lot more work in than you would in that kind of sense. Because back then it'd be like, you're just doing stuff and then people would just, it'd just be like, you would naturally get a lot of people within your scene just by doing things. People just walk around and say, I want to go to that on Friday. Why not?
There was some of that, but I would dispel any like utopian visions
Mm,
because I was not part of a scene that was popular.
mm.
I was not doing shit
You aren't the
that was
Strokes.
being I was looking at the Strokes and being like, wow, I was listening to the Strokes. I was not like it wasn't like because the Strokes were popular, every New York band was like basking in that glow.
Yeah. It's not
There were
Seattle.
some who did. And who knows if it really was like that then. I totally have friends who were part of that scene and did like ride along with that and had their own amazing rides and did amazing things in their own right because it was crazy at that moment. Like in the especially um 2001 to 2005 ish, whatever kind of, you know, it was kind of maybe, but in terms of there being still a uh, big time money record business that was interested in signing bands from New York City in this hope of it being like you mentioned Seattle, like hope of it being some kind of replay of that. Um, and there were plenty of bands who did well because of that, but also, it wasn't the same thing. It was a different set of circumstances, and it was a different thing. Our thing that we did was very, it was small, and we had a bunch of friends, but we were struggling. We were trying to get people to pay attention. But they didn't know how because we were nice people, and we weren't like,
You were marketers.
attention, right? And it wasn't. And I still struggle with the attention grabby part of what makes you successful online, right? Like we all know what makes people really successful. Like, and it's about getting attention. How do you do that? Like, well, pick away, but like it's not always something that like I'm comfortable with. So it's hard. Like I have a hard time even like maintaining basic social media accounts because it's
Mm.
like I don't want to be too like, hey, look at me, self-promoting and all this stuff. So it was always kind of struggling.
It's
But
like
like
in between.
yeah, yeah. And then also, like I said about the label part of it, although I put in a lot of work and had some incredible help from amazingly talented artists and also people like Ben Heller, who was came on as an intern and wound up helping me through some of the most important times of serious business. Uh, and Hansdale Sue, who is another incredible help because he started as an intern and helped me more on the studio side. And, but really the whole endeavor kind of started like parallel to the studio, and the studio is how like you could kind of like it's more of a business, like it's actually kind of it's not like it's still kind of like I still put the serious and kind of like oh serious business, put it in quotes, but it was more of a thing where it's like okay, well I'm actually like I'm working with people and stuff, and that became more of my focus over the years, and also towards the as Serious Business Records went along, I did get the opportunity to work with like some like it was like I was starting to get the opportunity to like work with amazing artists. Like, we mentioned, Rocket Ship Park and Benji Kosa and Higgins and Looker and the Paparazzi, another band that I worked with, but I didn't, I helped him with his label, but with his record. But I also wound up working with an artist named Bruno Wizard from a late 70s post-punk um, DIY legendary band from London called the Homosexuals.
Hmm.
And I wound up becoming Bruno's drummer and was part of Bruno's uh, band, along with the guitar player from the Unsacred Hearts, Dave Siegel, and Mike DeSantis, who was the bass player in the Realistics, who were a legendary New York band of that hot moment that we mentioned before, and they actually Realistics toured with the Strokes for a while, and for a long they were part of the Strokes' initial uh pop off. And so that was amazing because Bruno's an incredible artist, and he, we had the opportunity to work with him for a couple years, and he was kind of vibrating on his own level, and we all moved on. But he was an incredible artist, and we did an EP, and it was out on Serious Business for a minute. It didn't stay on Serious Business, but it was part of the umbrella of what we were doing, and that was incredible. And around the same time, I also met Robert Pollard from Guided by Voices, and Doug Gillard from Guided by Voices, and wound up doing a project with them in 2010, 2011. The band was called Lifeguards, and the album was called Waving at the Astronauts. And that was so amazing because I am a huge fan of Guided by Voices, and I like completely like a completist psycho fan. And so that, started this kind of relationship that I continue to this day of working with Bob, and I've to this and Doug. I'm in the middle of working on my 20th album, producing, for Guided by Voices.
Wow.
With Bob and Doug, yeah, since 2017. So that the story continues today. Like I work with GBV based on that momentum and that kind of stuff that I was doing with the label. And the Lifeguards album that we did back then came out as a joint release on Serious Business Records and Ernest Jennings record company, which is a far more serious label.
Record label.
But shout out to Pete who helped us put that out. But that was like that actually was a serious release. And at that point when we got that together and did that, I was like, wow. I mean, like, I kind of like, now this is, I've kind of achieved what I wanted to do. Like I have fucking made a record with
your idols. You're like, man,
yeah, my rock heroes. Yeah. So I was like, and people were, so things kind of like didn't go further than that really. There's a couple records that came out after that. And I still to this day, keep the label as it's open in terms of like, there are some things that I'll put out and reissue or, just digitally release, but I don't have, it's at, operating at 0.5% of what it was between 2004 and 2012. Mm-hmm. That's when it really was like happening, the label. But since then, it's been, I've just been focusing on the studio and my recording and production stuff. And
this is a good time to actually, ask a few questions I'd written down about that, because you had a couple albums that were listed on the your bio, and a couple albums that are like more like, I guess, quote unquote notable, like because you had the you obviously Guided by Voices. You had a lot of records. So you were produced with them, or were you a session musician, or you mixed them?
Mostly I'm listed as producer on Guided by Voices albums since 2017 ish, and I work with them in a very close way. I also worked with them as their front of house sound engineer. So all their shows since then, I've been with them for all of them. And we're friends, and we work in this all part of this beautiful continuum that's part of, helping Bob Pollard, helping his songs become records and then getting the records into the world. And it's a privilege. It's a beautiful thing.
So do you have, I guess, because like picking your favorite child, like do you have a favorite album you worked on in terms of as a producer, I guess, or a mixer?
It's hard. I mean,
could be the process or like the album itself, because
it's hard. Like, I would definitely, I'd have to pick a Guided by Voices album
Mm.
to just give a shout out and whatever. I love them all. I love Surrender Your Poppy Field, which came out in 2020. That's an
Mm.
amazing album to me. But I'm gonna also hedge and say that there's an album that I made in with my band, the Unsacred Hearts, that our guys where we started serious business with. It's called In Defense of Fort Useless, and I just look back at the time that we made it really fondly, and every time that I hear it, I'm kind of like brought back to that time, and it was just like a time of like possibility. It was like, yeah, it was just like a fun time,
That was from 2006.
yeah, exactly. It was 2006.
Okay, so
Yeah,
that makes sense.
and that's when we first kind of had the studio first, the idea of having a studio first kind of happened, and we're like, oh my god, we can actually do this. This is weird, and at first you got a lot of free time on your hands, and we were just filling it up by, you know, doing whatever we could to record. So we would, our band, the Unsacred Hearts, was very active, and we would record every rehearsal and every jam and every writing session, and they just became, and then every time we would get together for like a weekly rehearsal would be at the studio, and then it would became the making of that album, Fort Useless. But it also, In Defense of Fort Useless is the name of the album, but it was just like a fun time because we just come across all these just great bands, and began establishing relationships and friendships that persist till today.
I'm imagining you recorded all this digitally, right? Because if you had like all the tape in the world, I don't think you'd be able to record every single millisecond of your studio sessions, huh?
Totally. Yes. So my career kind of coincided, and as a direct result of the way that technology kind of unfolded around the turn of the century, right? Like digital recording became way more easy to access, and if you just had a Mac with a DigiDesign 001, which is what we had, is that what it was? 001? Yeah, 001. Which is like an early interface that allowed you to have two mic pre's and in a way to run Pro Tools. And I just always learned on Pro Tools, but that was around the time you could like, there was all these cracked plugins, like everything was like, oh wow, pirated plugins. You could like have all the plugins and everything. It went, it was like unlimited. All of a sudden you went from the 4-track era to a brief foray in like weird like digital like Porta Studio kind of like transitional technology that I like tried to learn and stuff. Then all of a sudden it was like, wow, you got everything. And then, we got a little setup where we could like record, like, I don't think we probably had like 10 inputs at once.
Oh my god.
And, that's a lot, man. I was like, oh, wow, you could record a whole drum set. You could record a whole band. I was like, you went from being like super limited to like, I was like, wow. And then it went to like, I probably had like 16 inputs for most of those early years. But around 2006, and you start your question, not to ramble too endlessly, but
No, you go on.
You started your question with, bringing up tape and like analog stuff. Around 2006, I met an amazing guy named Halsey Quamer, who's a real engineer, like a true engineer, who worked at the Manhattan Center, which is a fancy, big time recording studio where like Jay-Z recorded.
Oh, like the Abbey Road of New York.
In a way, I mean, it was one of the several. It's connected to the Hammerstein Ballroom, so it's like a place where like symphony orchestras would go to record, or Jay-Z did work there a lot, and whatever. Halsey had an incredible amount of experience and whatever, and he wound up. We had this big loft space where we were doing the studio, and the only way we were able to do it in the beginning was because Andy and I lived there, and like we had like a lofted bed space. But then Andy moved away, and then I wasn't staying there very much because I was living with my then girlfriend who became my current wife. So we had someone else live there, and it was Halsey. And Halsey brought with him all this incredible knowledge, and just he's a great guy, and brought with him all this experience of being a real engineer. So he really like taught me a lot of ropes. But with him, he brought a tape machine. So at that point, I did kind of start incorporating 2-inch tape into my workflow. I don't know if you could see that.
Oh yeah. Oh wow.
But anyway, I it became like a part of what I do. So now I do use the tape sometimes, but it's not the only way that like I'm recording.
Yeah, because you get my options.
You know, exactly. And I use it more. Sorry, I use it more for like a sound thing and a workflow thing, but just because it imparts a certain sound on a recording.
Yeah, like it's compressed. It has like a certain it has some fuzz to it. A
little bit. Yeah, it's got a little vibe.
Do people ever ask you to like put like I guess analog plugins, but they record digitally or something like that?
Sure, it's a part of my regular, I would say, digital workflow is to somehow
emulate
impart an analog kind of feeling. Just so, I mean, I feel like that's everybody's. That's just yeah.
If people
Nobody
love
wants
analog
it to sound.
sound.
Yeah, and like there's a reason. Like people don't want to just hear like. I guess maybe certain genres you do want to hear just cold, clean digital, but like. I think most genres of music kind of like there's good reason to kind of, think old school a little bit.
So I had a couple questions about like, because you mentioned obviously, being in New York for a while, there's a lot of different, I guess, transitions New York as a city goes through, right? So,
right.
So you mentioned like the giant, like I guess warehouse loft kind of centers, like because I'm in the book that Jesse wrote. There's a lot of parts where like okay, they got gentrified this, someone bought out this. So
right.
Do they still even have those like empty warehouse spaces where you would have been like even in general?
That's the thing. Yes, they do, but they've been mostly turned into higher priced residential kind of stuff. So 538 Johnson is all I know from firsthand experience.
Mm.
And it was in a neighborhood that was very industrial.
Was that Bushwick?
Yeah, it was Bushwick. And so it's 2005 though. So like now Bushwick is like popping, right? Like
yeah.
The Jefferson Street stop where like we used to get off to go to our spot. Like now that's popping. Like the whole area is just like filled with bars and restaurants and culture and like venues and galleries and stores and like all this, like it's basically gentrified, but like also it's kind of like where like it's an artistic hub kind of, you know what I'm saying?
Artsy,
like it's like where the real freaks, geeks, and weirdos are coming out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's
Portland,
it is
kind
a
of.
real. Totally, it's like the hub where you're gonna go to like feel it, And I guess it's even moved now because now it's kind of that might be in Bridgewood now, or maybe that's a different part of the city now. But at the time, it was none of that. It was like that. I guess that if you were looking for that experience, it would still be in like Williamsburg proper. But at the time, it was like dangerous and desolate, dude. And it was like the space, like the building was like covered in graffiti and it was gross and it was shitty and it was just like this raw, but we found it on an ad that said a soundproof recording studio. And Andy found the ad and I was like, wow, this is too good to be true. I mean, look, I don't remember what the rent was, but it was under 2000 in 2005. Well under 2000. And at the time, dude, we were like, how are we going to be able to come up with all that money? Because we were used to paying triple digit rent, Like,
yeah. Oh yeah. Early 2000 New York.
Yeah, in our shitty spots that didn't even have bathrooms and one-room shacks. Like this place said soundproof recording studio. We went and checked it out, and it had a booth built, and it had like a live room like built out, and it was like this lofted area where there could be like a bed space, and it was a live workspace. And we're like, holy shit, this is too good to be true. We had to do it, so we did it, and that was serious business. We started it, 2004.
Like,
Yeah, 4. We signed the lease, and it was awesome. But like it that same space, if you try to rent it now, it's probably 6,000,
yeah,
I guess, maybe something like that.
10K
So
maybe.
and if you and a lot of those are people live in them, like the same kind of artistic people in bands or people who are artists or people who are, whatever they're doing. They're hungry and they're young and they're just trying to like be in the hub of art and culture in New York City, which is still the best city, right?
Mhm.
But like it's tough because you got to live in a space like that's chopped up into these like weird, like, way smaller little bunked out areas where like 6 or 7 people might live in those spaces now. You know what I mean? So like there's just different ways that they were like adapted for that kind of life. But then also there might be if once the landlord could get a handle on it, then they would probably like sell it to a company that would turn it into like luxury condos as the time went along. 538 Johnson's not like that now, but I don't know what it is, but there's no way it's 1850 a month.
Oh, absolutely not. You could not buy a box for the same amount of rent that you used
Yeah,
to pay.
but just to put a capper on that, it was not soundproof either. We went in there and started making noise, and we were destroying the floor with noise,
Oh
dude.
my
Like, and we got
god.
instant, huge complaints, and we had to like figure it out. So we had friends, and we invested in figuring out a way to actually soundproof it, and we did a good enough job that we were able to be in there for 3 years. But that was hard. That's the first adventure in soundproofing.
They literally,
Uh,
they literally just false advertise on the one thing. It's a soundproof room. They didn't even have it soundproofed.
My next studio is the same thing too, man. They
Wow.
advertised it as soundproof, and I got in there and signed the lease and got in there and was like, they got me again because this is not. But
And you're from
we
Manhattan now,
survived.
right?
I live there, yeah, but my studio is in
The,
Dumbo, in
oh, that's in
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Because I
yeah.
still I
That's
either
where I am now.
restudy up on my New York stuff. We only I only been there a couple
Yeah,
times, so
yeah,
so
it's cool.
so how is Manhattan these days? 'Cause I know I heard like it's very like man, I heard it's expensive, but I mean like everything else.
Expensive. I mean, you know, it's like anything else. I mean, there's amazing experiences and amazing people and amazing stuff happening. But yeah, in terms of the hub for like uh, artistic stuff, like actual on the ground art making, it's hard
Mm.
because it is really expensive. But yeah, I mean, but New York is a big place, like and there's a lot of space here for a lot of people who are trying to make it happen. The more expensive it gets, the more it'll just beat you down,
Yeah.
So people like you just gotta hustle and but it really is. Whenever I get down on it, it's the people, just the people who come here and the people who live here, people who've lived here their whole lives, and people who've transplanted here, like it's just amazing, amazing people to meet
And
in this city.
most people you work with right now, right? Are they usually coming in from like other states? Do they like literally like live nearby, or
I mean, it's a mix, but like I do work with a lot of New York musicians, New York-based bands, songwriters, and artists. But also just as a mixer, I work with people from all over. If people are interested in working with me as a mixer, that they can, we can get it done from wherever you are.
mm,
So in that sense, and the way the internet works, you know, you can work with anybody, anywhere now, all over the world. So, and then as a drummer too, I just I have friends of friends who are uh, really cool artists and like a Dutch rock artist called We Are Joiners, and I just super punky, cool ass songs, and I put drums and they record the music, and the Netherlands. and
The
and
way you
then
said it sounded so wonder, like the Netherlands. Wow.
yeah, and then it came back, and then I think Sarah from Illuminati Hotties mixed it, and it came out. So that's cool. It's like one of these weird, you never know. That's just something that just came out this week, so it's on
Mm.
the front of my mind. But there's always some kind of crazy thing like that it's just like, now that we're in internet age, you might have this local thing going on, but it's also like it's everywhere. You're connected to everyone, and there's always possibilities. You know.
So is there a difference in like working with like I guess like the bigger indie bands like Guided by Voices or Built to Spill like the one time you worked with them like um or versus like working with like underground acts or like people just releasing their first single or anything like that?
Difference,
Is there like a difference like
it's
workflow? Yeah.
well, I don't know about workflow. The difference in workflow is always different artist to artist.
Okay.
I mean, I have things, I do things in a certain way, but it's always you're trying to work with an artist on their own terms. But the two artists that you mentioned also have audiences that are amazing audiences and are passionate and are going to pay attention to everything and every detail and every word and every guitar lick and every choice and everything. So that's cool. Like that's to me that's it's very exciting, and it's exciting to see those records go out and become part of people's lives, and then uh you know then people live with them for a while, and like it's just cool. That to me that's like the ultimate satisfaction. So it's really just like that the music gets that you like work on in whatever capacity, if it's like technical or for the songwriter or whatever, but it gets woven into people's lives, and it's like has like a function other than just being like, I don't know, just vibrations that are not vibrating.
Is that so like like living with an album or like a set of albums like that's what you like think is like the best part about music in like terms of like working as it with like as a producer
It's just having an audience.
having an
Listen,
audience.
well, we were talking about all those artists before, but and all of whom have made amazing music, and all of whom are made by amazing people, and but like a lot of those artists are artists whose like audience is small.
Mm.
So there's always an audience, but the audience is small. So it's like when the audience is 1,000 people total, that's cool. But out of that 1,000 people, how many of them are gonna be your real true fan? Like, I don't know, 10. That's not enough.
Yeah.
It's enough to keep doing it for the love of the game, but it's not enough in the sense of like that it's like you're gonna go out and perform those songs and for a whole career, and but when there's an audience, even if it's like if it becomes like, oh well, now maybe the overall audience was 100,000, but 1,000 of them are the true fans that are like, have you ever heard of the thing 1,000 true fans, where like if you have 1,000 true fans who just like support you and buy everything you do, then you can have like a living or
Oh
whatever.
yeah, like it's like you have a career based on 1,000 true fans versus like having
Yeah,
no true
but
fans
even
but 1,000 eyes on you or 100 million eyes on you.
right, but like it's true that like that's why when you think about it, like you know, those 1,000 people, like your music gets woven into their lives, and it becomes something that they experience, and maybe they're posts about, or they'll proselytize to their friends about, or they it grows, and it lives a life. It goes on beyond just kind of like, well, I just handed that in. I just finished working on something and
Yeah,
I handed it in,
that's the client.
and that's it.
Mm.
It's nice to see when stuff becomes, yeah, like,
It's like the return, like you get like a return on investment essentially. It's like, input and output. Like, okay, I put all my work into this. I produced this with the group. We did a lot of work. We, recorded this one vocal track 17,000 times. And now someone actually recognized that I did, put my whole
Totally.
ass into it,
Yeah, totally. And like, if it's somehow, whatever. You just everybody who's creative likes that.
Yeah.
I think like you want your work to be engaged with. It doesn't need no. It doesn't need to be like too many people. Come on now. It's like
You don't need radio
crazy,
here.
No, but I mean, of course,
It would like to be.
I'm working on a very small level here, but it is nice when you just know that the stuff that you're doing is when it goes out there into the world, like people are gonna be rocking it in their cars and on their fucking headphones and shit. It's cool.
You feel like a rock star whenever that happens, essentially.
Yeah, it's just cool. It's just like it's energy. Like what you're doing, it's weird. Making recordings is a weird thing. What are you actually even doing? Like, what are you making? Like, it's like invisible.
You're recording
like,
sound waves.
Yeah, it's like weird. It's like what even is that? So it's like when it's got to get like interacted with for it to like unlock the energy in it, right? Like, if you just make the music and nobody hears it, then it's like,
there's no point. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how many live shows have you done in your life anyway?
Well, as a musician, I don't know. I'll just say middle hundreds probably.
Middle hundreds.
Not that many. I mean, I've toured. I've played with. I mentioned the Unsacred Hearts, and I mentioned I played for a couple years in a band called the Homosexuals. That was great in 2002, 2008, and 2009. I played with Doug Gillard, who's the guitarist from Guided by Voices. I played in his solo band for a while, and we did a bunch of shows, and that was great. Played in a band called The Warm Hair, and I played in tons of bands like over the years. But like, I wish I could be touring as a musician more, playing as a musician more. But I've just kind of like settled into my, behind the glass kind of mode. But I also did, as I mentioned before, I mixed Guided by Voices live, so that's kind of like doing shows too, so that's cool.
So I saw on your website you had the they had like you're on a Boredoms album, like with the 77 Bowl event, like you had the all those things.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's an album, but it was an event that was
live album.
Yeah, and it was staged on July 7th, 2007. July 7th later, for me, personal note, went on to be my first daughter's birthday 3 years later. But in 2007, that was like the coolest shit that I could imagine being able to do. And I, got wind that it was happening, and I was able to kind of like get an invite to be one of the 77 drummers. That was an amazing experience. Holy shit. I had Brian Chippendale from Lightning Bolt was right behind me, like blowing crazy. And Matt Schultz from Savak, who I just recorded, but like back in the day, played Holy Fuck and Enon, and he was amazing. So just amazing drummers all around me, and that. Yeah, Andrea from Talk Normal was around. Anyway, just crazy experience. Wild experience. Yeah, but that was like a one-day thing.
Yeah.
It was like, wow.
Yeah. I mean, you clearly, the way you're talking about, you remember that one day fondly, though.
Wow, yeah, it was just like such vibration. Just imagine 77 drum sets set up in a concentric circle, like a coiling snake, and in the middle it's the Boredoms, and they're like, their main dude eye is like conducting us and giving us like signals and telling us what to do. It was crazy. It just the vibration. It was primal. It was wild.
Like I saw footage of it, and it looks like it looked like it could shake the whole of New York, honestly.
Yeah, and it was crazy. And it's in this neighborhood where I am now. But at that point, my studio was not there. But now I'm in the neighborhood where it was then. It was a bunch of like weird coincidences and craziness.
I feel like that's subconscious. You have such a good memory of it.
I mean, barely, dude. I can't remember shit, dude. I tell you the truth. I'm just giving you the big overview.
I mean, it's like you fainted. You had like a trance.
Yeah, for sure.
So is that one? Like, do you have any like? because I know you're like a percussionist, a drummer for like all these different bands and groups. So do you have like one proudest achievement? Like, oh yeah, this is the one time I really locked into the drums. It's like,
Yeah, I'm gonna lay it on. So I mean, look, I love when I play drums with anybody, and I love I've gotten a chance to play drums on lots of records. I just all people in my studio and other times or whatever. But there was this one time when I was playing in a band with a good friend of mine and a great guy, and he had a friend who had become uh, successful as a record producer, and his name was John Hill, and was producing Shakira at the moment that I was
wow.
playing in his friend's band. And John, amazing guy, so talented, and he kind of had come to prominence by producing the first Santa Gold album. And now she's Santa Gold, but at the time it was Santo Gold, and it was a hot album, and his production was great, and so he was getting all these opportunities, and so our mutual friend Terrence, I was playing in his band called Taxi Taxi at the time, and for whatever reason, John, in the midst of working with Shakira, needed a rock band to do a song on Shakira's album, where his concept was like an organic, real kind of a rock sound to on a pop album, where like it was very there's things that are expected, and this is a major artist, obviously. So yeah, I got to play on this Shakira song, which is pretty wild. I didn't get to meet Shakira, but I think we recorded at Sear Sound. I think that's where it was, which is fancy pants studio, dude. That was like my only real foray into being a musician in a seriously fancy studio, and it was amazing. Yeah, it was a cool experience.
Do you remember what song it was, or like what album it was?
Yeah, it's called Mon Amour on
Mon
She
Amour.
Wolf. Yeah, and it was we're not credited. I mean, and it was a. I mean, we got John got us taken care of. We got a little money. We got a little whatever. It was a very positive experience. John is a great dude, and I was so happy to see him have all kinds of success with all these different artists, and that particular experience though was wild, dude. Like, it was like, what? Shakira wasn't there though. Look,
Yeah.
we were making the music.
The backup, the backup session musicians.
But she sang on it later,
I know some people who would be like, that would be your greatest achievement. Yeah. Some people, like, especially I know some people from Latin America, they'd be like, oh my God. I said,
she has so many followers on Instagram. I was like, I looked at her Instagram, I was like, she has like, I don't know how many million, like a number of million that like blew me away. I was like, whoa, I've never seen that many million before on Instagram. I have like 1,400. She's got like 100 million. Like, whoa.
so, there's a lot of like, well, actually, I did want to ask about like, a couple of you, because you mostly do like in the studio right now, right? So, I guess there's a lot of, technical stuff we can go to, since I guess we're on the what is this? Let me see how long about an hour. So, we can get into the nitty gritty now, because
Sure, whatever you want to hear.
So, well, firstly, so as a mixer, right? How long does it usually take? Like, what's the longest amount of time it took you to mix an album? Like, redoing like this and that. Like, I had to get the reverb perfect on like this drum track or something like that. Like just really.
Well, it's changed over the years, and it changed depending on the project and the situation. The longest ever is, I mean, it's got to be, going to the years, but it's not like you're working on it like nonstop.
Yeah, on and off.
That you're like dipping into, and those are the hardest, because the reason they take so long, if it's usually like a passion project or something like that, especially I always, my life in music, I always like look back on myself a year ago. I'm like, I did not know anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's always like just the growth is always like really uh fast, it seems like,
Mm.
like, or just there's always a lot of it, like, and the farther along I go, it's like, wow, you just like, you have to keep growing or else you go backwards, right? So like, but like when you put something down for like a year or two and then you go back, you're like, ah, fuck. It's hard to just like pick it up.
So what
You
I
have to
do
like,
it like this.
right, you have to kind of like situate yourself in it, what it was, and make it authentic to what it today is for you or whatever. So it's hard to like do that sometimes. So certain times things can take a really long time. um that being said, I will say that like as time has gone along, like when I was first starting out in the early years, like yeah, shit would take a long time because like my process was not honed. It was more of a random process. Where
Experimental.
now I guess just random. Like I always just like follow my instinct. Oh, I guess that's the only through line from the beginning to the
Mm.
end is just like I just kind of like go with follow my intuition, I guess. But like the 20 years experience version of that rules, and the 20 months experience of that version of that is tough on the technical side, right? Like the creative side, it's all good,
Mm.
but like it's all good no matter what. But like the technical side, you gotta like, yeah, there's just systems, and so, and in terms of like being able to like do a mix at a consistent high level of quality, uh, you just have to have your systems in place so that you know what you are doing and your step by step process, and that you have ways to have checks and balances on yourself and your process to ensure that it's going to have an excellent outcome. Where like when you're just starting out and things might seem like it's taking a long time, it's because you're just like just doing it like it's like, or at least I'm saying the you is not you, it's me,
Yeah.
and that in the early me, you know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
like I just would be like figuring it out, and sometimes you're not figuring anything out, you're just kind of pushing the dirt around, and like, so as long as you're following your intuition, it's like artistically all good, like as long as it's authentic. But like from a technical perspective, yeah, sometimes it takes time.
So like, did you have like? Because I know you said you went to like you went to the college and was it Columbia College?
Yeah.
Was it for music first of all?
No, no, no. I didn't study. I never studied music formally.
Mm.
In any. I mean, aside from, I guess I took drum lessons. So, I mean, I guess in that sense, like, I'm I'm definitely into like that side of music education. But no, I never like did a any kind of formal music training in school, or music technology like recording school kind of
Wow.
training or anything like that.
So you just got the studio and you said, "All right, let's just figure this out."
Not, I mean, yes, but like the getting the studio part was the 2002 to 3
Oh wait, I meant
to
getting in the
5.
studio, like using Pro
Yeah, it's like,
Tools or
yeah, but
something.
yeah, and like it was the like the amazing thing about that time period is that it was like the idea of a home studio basically was like kind of locked in. Like there was the 4-track kind of thing that happened in the 90s, and well, starting in the, I guess, really reaching back to the mid 80s, but like the ubiquity of being able to record at home, right? Like in a multi-track kind of a way. It just exploded in the when you could just have a computer that you could have Pro Tools on. Like, and you could have an interface where you could like have all this. I don't know. To me, that was wild. I was like, "You're kidding!" And it was like stolen basically at the time. You could. It was just it was before there was like. I mean, yeah, big studios. People would pay a lot of money to put Pro Tools in their thing, but it was software. It was like cracked software. Okay.
It's like everyone
And
uses cracked version of FL Studio these days, you know?
right. Yes. And it was all of the audio tools that make up the basic building blocks of a studio, which prior to that was not laid out like that. It wasn't like available like that. So to me, that was revelatory. And it took a lot of, like we were discussing, like taking, trial and error and like, yikes. And also being like up my own ass, like experimenting creatively and having an amazing fun time doing that as well while I'm learning all this stuff on, but like in those early years. But like also there were a couple of people who like were mentors and kind of like taught me some stuff. Like I mentioned Halsey before, who came on the scene around 2006, and shout out to Halsey. He was amazing. Taught me, just not like on purpose, like teaching me shit. He was just like hang out and be like, yeah, that's the way we do it. This is how we do this and that. It's like, oh, thank you. Oh my God. I'm like, thank you for this firsthand information, because he's coming from the real studio system. But prior to that, I had a friendship with an amazing guy. I would love to shout out Benji King, who sadly passed in 2012, but he was just like an amazing musician who and producer who had a studio in his apartment in Manhattan. And so I met him because he mixed a couple early records from my early, like basically high school, college bands. But he just was very generous with his time and his enthusiasm for recording and mixing, and yeah, just like sat me down a few times, and then I went back for more and more, just kind of like, just this is how it works, dude. Like, don't fuck it up. Like, just basics of, and just kind of like, he actually gave me time, sat me and just explained to me how signal flow worked and how EQ worked and how just gain staging, just basic understanding of like how to do it. And I'm forever grateful to him for his enthusiasm. He also shout out that he's an incredible musician. He was in the band Scandal, who had a top 10 or number one, I don't know, hit with the song Goodbye to You on Columbia Records in like 80, what was it, too? But I think it was the top selling EP of all time on Columbia Records at the time. But Benji went on to play in different versions of the Turtles and other artists. Like he was an amazing, if you just look up Benji King online, and he's an incredible guy, and just his spirit was just like so like infectious, and he like completely helped me fall in love with the possibility of having a life recording people. Like he was literally doing it out of his apartment, and I was like, wow, that's you can do that. You can actually do this.
Oh yeah, the Scandal self-titled EP.
Yes. Yeah, that's Benji. He was the keyboardist in that band. And he was also on, there was like a reuniting the band special on VH1 in like the early mid 2000s, where he reunited with the band Patti Smythe. And but anyway, I just wanted to shout out Benji. If we
shout
have
out
this, like,
Benji King,
yeah, because he's just such a great guy. But yeah, there were other people around that time that I met. Pete Cole, who had a studio in his basement of his place where he was living in Long Island City. People that I met where I was like, wow, you can actually do this, I guess. And I saw that it was feasible, and it has not been easy by any means, but I just kind of have like stuck to it over the years, and fuck it, here it is. So it's 2025.
That's kind of crazy, because
yeah,
it's whenever you like, I don't know, because even I've been making music for, I guess, a little while, and it's like, you feel like you've been doing it for a while, and then you realize like it's like, it's always, for me, it's like always some album comes out, and then I realize, oh, I don't know enough about music. I'm just like, there's always something like blows me away.
It's cool to stay inspired, but you never want to let yourself get beat up. You just got to keep going, right? Like, just got to keep doing it. If it's meant to be done, it's not even really your choice. It's kind of like you just have to.
You gotta.
You gotta just do it. So Sometimes that's the way it is.
So for
And that's what,
you, like it was all
yeah.
communal, right? Learning how to mix, learning how to produce. It was all kind of like the community. It was all learning like on the job essentially.
In a way, but by the time the early, there was a few years where I was working on some, shit was rough, and it's like making cool records, and a lot of times what I could do would align really well with the kind of band that was coming in and the kind of thing that I was doing. Um, but yeah, like uh, there were some experiences came along that just really like you just gain like you gain experience. So one of them was in 2010. This I started um, recording I guess you would call it. I mean, nowadays you would call it a podcast thing, like a
Mm.
pod, like it would be podcast. But back then it was like the early days of like video podcasts. I guess it was like it was the early days of, it was like 20. YouTube had really only been out for 5 years, and you
Mm.
couldn't you couldn't really stream, right? You could upload video.
Yeah, you couldn't.
Twenty
It's like
in
what? Even
2010.
they still had the limit. I think they still had the 10-minute limit. Even
Right. It was like it was still kind of new, and my studio and my services got hired to do this kind of like this company called Breakthrough Radio that started as an internet radio kind of a company, which is also like a weird thing. Like, what's internet radio? But like it kind of was a thing for a minute, in that weird in between time. And they had branded themselves as that, but then it's kind of like podcasting became like they just kind of like started calling themselves BTR, and like it was kind of more like a podcast thing. And they did a live in the studio series called BTR Live Studio. And there were a couple of different studios before that time that they in the city that they would hire out for a couple few hours and invite a band to an interview, get a performance from the band, and get like a live mix from the engineer at the studio. And then they had bounced around to a couple different situations. And then when they found me, I was like so like first of all like in over my head in my studio needing to have a regular client like that. And it was really heaven sent in that way. But because it was a regular, it became a regular client. But also it was heaven sent in the way that it trained me to deal with a lot of bands. So over the course of the 10 years that I did that, I recorded 1,200, 1,300 different bands, like ones that went on to be really big, like Idols and like Courtney Barnett and like I don't know, well, Julian
wow.
Baker was in there once, and I don't know, lots of other bands I could like remember, but like um, also hundreds of bands that probably broke up shortly after they like did just like local ones, and but they were coming through to do this live studio podcast. So that was a really good training ground for engineering, because it like just taught me a lot about microphones, rooms, the room that I was working in, and then I did it over in different, as I moved my studio, we did it in different places. But uh and so that was a great opportunity to get experience. It was kind of you get to record great bands, but real quick, 3 hours,
Mm.
set up, in and out, and it really harkened back to that story I told you at the beginning of the conversation when I first recorded Man in Gray, and they came in
The
and
first free
did
studio session. Yeah.
right, and it's the same thing. And I would just do that for basically that's what I got hired to do for BTR, and I did that for 10 years. And it was that
Wow.
was a and I had my own show on that for a while, which was funny. It was a good show. Good damn show. That I had serious business on BTR. But the crazy thing about BTR is that in 2021, what was the pandemic happened and whatever, things went crazy, but they it all disappeared, and they took the people who ran BTR took it all down.
Wow.
And it is all, and the people who worked for them got very little notice. And I mean, I was kind of at that point, it was mid pandemic, so things had kind of like, that ship had sailed
Yeah.
for like recording in the studio at that moment. So, but yeah, they shut it all down and they scrubbed their likeness on the internet. So there are these 1,000 sessions. BTR Live Studio, I think I did over 1,000. And there was 250 episodes or 200 and something episodes of the Serious Business on BTR show. I was the host. But those were wild because that one I did it more kind of gonzo and crazy and I wouldn't really talk about the band's like normal stuff. So how'd you get your name in your band? And we would just like bullshit and like try to
fucking around.
Like at the time it would like if it wasn't a thing that was should I say it was ahead of its time?
You could say it was. Honestly.
But at the time in 2010, 2011, if there was vertical kind of video stuff, it would have been more. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah,
Instagram,
it's like
TikTok kind of
quick kind of thing.
Yeah, and we would have longer. Basically, we would have like episodes that were I don't know 10 minutes long video, but like they could have been cut into awesome little things like that. But it was before that came out, so whatever. And then it got scrubbed from the internet and whatever.
It was kind of like the Weird Al Yankovic interviews he had, like with musicians.
Dude, I'll send you some of these. They were fucking Weird Al, man.
They same thing. You just have you ask the musician just a random question.
Well, yeah, I mean, some of it. Well, I was really self-conscious. I didn't want to. I had a weird self-conscious situation about like being like an interviewer. Like I was a person in bands up until that point, and I just didn't want to be an interviewer. I felt like a douche. So I would just like I kind of just tried to just base it around like the kind of bullshitting that would happen like in the control room when we're like just kind of getting to know each other and just normal bullshitting, you know. And that's the kind of like tenor of the conversations, you know. It would be like kind of more like
backstage conversation, studio session talk.
I guess, yeah, like, you know, not, and you know, it would get off color and stuff, so it probably would some would probably not fly, you know, in the years after. But it was fun as hell, and like I don't know, I hope I didn't make anybody feel uncomfortable or anything like that.
Well, I mean, at this point, I mean, maybe they're over at this point. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I hope I didn't. If I did, I am really, 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 truly from the bottom of my heart sorry. But it was more like it was just supposed to be fun, wacky, gonzo, like, you know, fucking crazy. You know, we had beers and it was just like open. We were trying to like have it be like eavesdropping on a hang session with a band.
Yeah, bullshitting.
That was the vibe.
It's bullshitting.
Yes. Yeah. Totally.
So you know, it's kind of weird because you have the experience with like I guess I'd call it the difference between analog and digital in terms of like the internet, right? Because you have the old internet, which is like, you know, you printed out your own CDs, you sent them to people's addresses directly. You had the websites you made. You're literally people, the members would make their own websites and have their own servers. And then you had 100%. Companies who like, you know, recorded all these things in a processed way. You know, you're on a whole show and then they scrub it off the internet. And, you know, now you have the social media platform. So it's like you had so many different ways of interacting with the internet, you know?
Yeah, totally. And well, the cautionary tale of the company that scrubs something off the internet is also like, you know, the internet it is permanent in a way, but it's also like, don't trust that because your shit is on a platform that you have no control over, that it's going to always be there, right? Like if you have any kind of like artistic output that you don't have like back this shit up, right? Like if you're a YouTube, like how many times have you heard of like a YouTuber who has like an amazing...
many times. I've literally had hundreds of them over the years. I try to find a video, right? And it's like, oh man, this is a really good video. I try to remember the whole thing. Not there. Copyright strike.
Not there. Yeah, and if it's like it works on so many different, like some of it's all creative output, but like, you know, some of it might be art or some of it might be journalism or some of it might be like whatever, but you can't trust the platforms. Like, and we're in this new world of like everyone's music collection is on their phone. It's like, oh, it's just all on my phone. It's like, no, it's not. No, it's not. It is, you know, it's controlled by a company that you pay. You're paying money to. Second, that company either, you stop paying them, or you're denied access to it, or they fold, you don't have that content anymore. You got to get it from a different company or whatever, you know.
You're renting
So
it.
it's just, yeah, it's just different. It's a different thing. Um, so I don't know, but it's also there's ups and downs for it all. We're living in an amazing age right now. It's incredible to live the time we're living, but it's also fucking scary and
I,
it's
I
weird.
there's like a middle ground. I feel there's like because there's Bandcamp. You could download the music at least. You could
Right.
stream whatever you want to, and then you could buy the vinyl for like a lot of people are buying vinyl these days. You have like Tyler the Creator
Yeah.
selling out whole bargain bins full of vinyl. Yeah, obviously you have yours. Like
Tyler is yeah, he makes like these kind of like beautiful objects, like the physical objects, his records, they're always cool. They always have like the artwork is really like considered. He's an album artist, Tyler, Like in that sense, he's like so old school now. Cuz he even though he's only been out for what, since
like 15,
15 years?
Yeah,
15 years, which that is a veteran in the game, but like that 15 years takes you back to a time when, like, I don't know, man, it's like coming up at that time, the album was more of the dominant medium. And I'm a album guy. Like I like in terms of like the album as like my favorite medium versus like the single or the EP or the whatever. Like I like the album. You know what I mean? It's got a side A, a side B. It could be digital, it could be on a CD, but I like the idea of like half hour or more or 25 minutes or whatever you want to call it. But it's an album. It's a you can you
it's
know
a
what I'm
chunk.
saying? Like
It's a piece.
that's what Tyler makes, and each one of his albums has its own identity, its own. I mean, with him, it's a storyline, his characters, and all that stuff. But it's got its own universe and it's its own statement. It's like, I don't know. It's a at least in the kind of rock world where I work. I'm not very very fortunate to work with Robert Pollard from Guided by Voices, he's an album man. He makes these amazing, fully formed pieces of album art, the music, the lyrics, and the cover, and the whole thing is what it is. And got to keep it alive in the digital age.
It's all very thoughtful. Like the way like an album person would have to go through a lot more efforts to go through all this stuff, just like because you can, like I've seen like a lot of I've probably not been to even 1% of the live shows you've been to, either as a performer or as a musician or as a watcher, right? But even the ones I've been to, you always have someone selling their albums or CDs, your EPs, your singles, whatever, and you could tell whoever put a lot more thought into, like, let's say the cover or let's say the packaging, T-shirts, whatever. It's not like it's better or worse, but it's like if you put more thought into it, even if I don't buy it, I'm like, wow, that I'm impressed.
Yeah, for sure. And but it's kind of like you can still uphold the same kind of principles in a totally digital world, because it's the physical like merch aspect of it or the object aspect of it of having a record is cool, but it's not essential.
Right.
What's essential is like seeing the album as a collection of songs that's unified by themes or unified by a point of view or a time period or a purpose, where they all work together and cooperate to create a cohesive whole, kind of like a filmmaker makes a movie or a novelist writes a book. You know what I'm saying? It's not random. It's not like a collection of songs that's just a random like group of songs. It's an album that has a point, or even if it is every song is about something different, and every song, or maybe it's a document of a moment in time, or if it's a document of a young band's set or whatever it is, but it's not it's an album, and that's something that like in the 2020s, I feel like you got to defend that a little bit, because like people kind of like are working on a song by song kind of basis now sometimes, and kind of like delaying the album, and then the album is a different thing, and it's only for like if you get signed to a label or something.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's a different kind of like way to think of it. But I love the idea of the album as the artistic end product, you
We're,
know, and how it.
we're kind of going back in that respect, aren't we? We're kind of
Yeah,
going back. Like we're like pre-Beatles. They didn't have, before, let's say Sergeant Pepper's or whatever that Frank Sinatra album. Yeah, wee small hours in the morning. Like, people just had a list of songs, and this is what's the record's comprised of, like a trail mix essentially, right?
Yeah, for sure. That's kind of like a compilation kind of a like approach to it, and but like I like the idea of, I like the idea of Sergeant Pepper. I like the idea of they have I mean, that's a concept album or something like Heidi, weighty, or like, supposed, whatever.
They call it a concept album, but the concept is that
whatever.
they're a band in a band. Like it's good.
Right. But in a lot of ways, that's like an archetype of an album where there is a band that's an artist that is gonna make an album of songs that has, like I'm describing, that all kind of like coalesces to one point. It's not random. It's not a compilation. It's not just a grab bag. It's a statement. It's a movie, and so that's what an album is. That's what the great albums of all time. That's what, I don't know. We'll name one. Thriller. That's what it is.
Yeah. Honestly,
right. That's what Bob Dylan, Blonde on Blonde, or The Highway 61 Revisited, or whatever your favorite album is. Fucking Nas, Illmatic, fucking whatever the classic. I'm just picking my own.
Yeah,
favorites, but, it's not random, and so that's just something that like, I don't know. I feel like it's important to like defend that and maintain it, because it's like it's anybody in the punk rock world and or in the indie world, the post-punk rock, post-hip-hop world, and where we have all this technology, anybody can make an album. You could do it. You made a great album that I listened to.
Oh, thank you.
And anybody can, and you can do it, and like you could put all that creativity into a focused kind of place, and have it be, an album. Like it's a volume, it's a thing, and then you can make the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one. Anyway, that's what I love to do. That's what I get psyched to get to do.
I always love that idea, because it's the same thing you said with like, living with an artist, right? It's like because I always use Tyler's example, because I literally remember like the day that Flower Boy dropped, because I remember like during that summer there was a solar eclipse, and I was listening to like 911 Mr. Lonely as soon as that happened. I'm like, I'm never gonna forget this for the rest of my life.
Nice.
There was
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I remember when like Goblin was first getting like talked about and stuff, and I first heard that on like, I was back in the days when I was doing what do you call it? File sharing, like
mixtape era.
I was on what.cd, which was peer-to-peer fucking, what do they call that? Anyway,
file sharing services.
Yeah, peer-to-peer, baby. But yeah, man, Tyler blew me away. It was so crazy. Never heard anything like that before, and he was so young. That shit was it was like weirdly atonal in his weird kind of musical way, but it's so dark, and the weird dark stories. But I followed every record that he's put out since then. He's one of the great album artists of this era, He's one of the few.
I love using him as example, because he knows that he's specifically trying to do something different than the average artist, and he's trying to push people into that direction, and people are actually responding to it. Like I see people who like never buy vinyl otherwise will go and buy a record player to listen to Igor on vinyl, right? And I think that's exactly what you're saying. Like, there's so many different albums that like Frank Ocean's Blonde, probably my top one album. I love In Utero. That's like because In Utero is like a thematic album, right? It's more of like a
For sure.
like track by track, and there's albums that are, other ones I like. They're just compilations, like 666 Mafia. You have Underground Volume 1. That's just a compilation, but it still feels like an album, like
Yeah, totally.
like
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. And a lot of it is like I'm getting so old that I feel threatened by the and I'm such a record collector. I
oh yeah, I
threatened
feel
by
that.
the younger generation, the complete abandonment of like physical medium. Where now and when people are back into it or back, it's more like it's a merch item. It's like, oh, I buy a t-shirt, or I'm going to buy a shitty record player so I can listen to one album, or whatever.
Yeah.
But like, I'm like, dude, it's my fucking life, man.
I was on the floor. I was getting the punk EPs. You don't know about that.
Yeah. So I'm like, I do think that there is something beautiful about the physical medium of vinyl. And I obviously like, I mean, you can see it a little bit in the background.
Yeah.
Like an actual huge physical investment in my record collection. That's a little bit insane. But it's not. It's also like it's a tough thing. It's not about the vinyl. It's not about the physical. It's not about that.
It's about the music. Yeah.
About the music, and it's about the art. It's the visual. The thing that the vinyl brings you is a full. It's a full experience of the playing of it, so it's a physical, ritualistic kind of experience, which is important. But if people get that from listening to their phones, that's cool too, or if you can experience it by looking at the art on your phone or your iPad or whatever, and then reading the lyrics that way or whatever, it's just more about fucking Igor is Igor, right?
Yeah.
That is you experience those songs. You can experience them separate from it too. You can shuffle all your stuff together and do it that way. That's cool too. But it's Igor's Igor, and that experience is only that experience in that way, in that order, going through those sides, side A, side B.
It's like watching a movie out of with either just the scenes or out of order. No, it's meant to be watched beginning to end. If you're gonna say you watched the movie, it's
totally. And Tyler, and he's got such thematic purpose to all of his work, and then it goes he's got those threads that go through all of his albums. Like on his second side of all his albums, he's got the one track that's like the long hybrid track.
Yeah, the two-sided track or the three-sided track.
Yeah, and it's always in the same slot on side B.
Goes to track 11.
Yes. And so he knows what he's doing, and he's giving you something to live with and grow up with. And you might love it when you're a kid because it's he's saying crazy shit and it's banging. But as you go along in life, you're doesn't let up. There's just more shit to discover. And that's what, making great albums is all about. You gotta go to those lengths sometimes.
So, now that we're I guess winding down the podcast, right? I wanted to ask, this is a question that's standard for basically anyone who works in music, but you always got to ask it. So, what would you consider your favorite albums of all time? Because you listed a few of them there, It's I'm sure you have hundreds and thousands and trillions of them, but you could parse down a couple.
Sure. I'll do a few of my favorites. I'll give a shout out to Guided by Voices, Alien Lanes.
Alien Lanes.
That one really blew my mind when I heard it for the first time, and I didn't hear it until probably around 2000, but it came out in 94, and that really blew my world to bits at that time and continues to. And everyone should go check out Alien Lanes. But when I was young, I would say that early on, I got really blown away by Led Zeppelin as a kid, and I was this is 1990, and I would just started playing drums, and Led Zeppelin is old classic rock, and it's also has been cool and uncool and cool and uncool a lot of times,
like the Beatles
before then and since then. but so I love Zepp, dude. So I gotta throw a Led Zeppelin album in there, and I change my favorite Zepp album all the time, but I'm going with Led Zeppelin 3 today.
Ooh, okay.
I love Zepp 3, bro.
I honestly thought you were gonna say Zeppelin too. I'm not gonna lie.
I love Zepp 2. I love them all, but I love Zepp 3 because I love the friends going into Celebration Day. I love the acoustic stuff. I love the heavy stuff. It's got the riffs, it's got everything. And then I'm gonna go. I gotta give a shout out to Bruce Springsteen. I am
Mm.
sorry, world, but I'm a huge Bruce Springsteen fan, and I'm gonna give it today. I'm gonna give it to his second album, The Wild, the Innocent, and the E Street Shuffle, which might not be his best album, but it means the most to me. And let's. How many do I have to do? Can I just
I
go with
mean,
those three for now?
yeah, you could go as many as you want to. I didn't say you had a limit, but you felt like sounded like you were gonna list another one. I don't know.
I know. Yeah, I should. Well, because I'm just, I'm free balling here.
Because you
We're just
already listed
gonna.
a couple albums in that first section. So
But I don't want to keep it all in one lane either. So the other ones that are really important to me. All right, I'm gonna go Stankonia by
Outcast.
Outkast.
Yeah.
Major album for me. I'm gonna go. Miles Smiles by Miles Davis.
Ooh, I love that cover.
Like
Always love that cover.
Yeah, and it was just when I was young. It was something that it was pretty much the first time I heard like kind of real like modern jazz like that, and it blew my mind. And I don't have to talk about fucking Stankonia. Everybody knows.
Yeah, everyone knows Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Everybody knows why that's great. But I'm just trying to take it. I'm trying to just like because I have a very like wildly like diverse palette of like things that I like. I'm not just kind of like, and as you, the beginning of our conversation where I was like telling you about my label and it was like all these ridiculous schizophrenic kind of sounds that were on it. Yeah, but yeah, we'll just leave it at that for now.
Okay, so yes, because I mean, you named Miles Davis at the right moment because I've been listening to a lot of Bitches Brew this month. So
I love Bitches Brew. So good. So good.
especially that.
I mean, I should put yeah. Bitches Brew is so great, man. Bitches Brew is so great. I'm like of an age where like there's certain albums like you mentioned In Utero before, and I would give it to if I was going to say what's your favorite Nirvana album, I would give it to In Utero, but I got to give it to Nevermind because when that came out, man, that was crazy. I was 12 and it blew my mind, and I was 2 years into being a music fan, and I was really into hair metal, and I still am. Fuck it, dude, love it. But that was what was hot and what was on the MTV and stuff then, and just to experience that seismic event and to see all the Motley Crues and Poisons just rocked by this new kind of thing, and then that kind of like that was just a formative moment for me. So.
Like hair metal never hit the same after that album came out, huh?
It took a while for it to hit the same, but now it hits pretty fucking good when I go back and revisit like whatever my faves are of that world.
But yeah, that's a good selection of picks, because I mean, especially whenever you name the Bob Dylan album, I was like, whenever you name Bruce Springsteen after that, I'm like, that's not as surprising as if you just named that out of nowhere.
Just thinking of these like towering achievements, But like I'm into so much stuff that I don't know.
I mean, considering you work in music, everyone's gonna have like their favorite albums. Everyone's gonna have the ones that are like. So in fact, are there any albums you've been listening to like like let's say this month, this week? There's like, oh yeah, I can't stop listening to this one.
What am I this month? What do I got? I got Protean Threat by OCs. Fucking jamming that a lot. Do you like the OCs? You ever check out?
I never heard of them actually.
They're so great. Like they're like a Bay Area originally kind of garage rock.
Oh,
and that's kind of they're confronted with one main guy, and then that's kind of had been his thing for the whole time, and then a few different lineups.
This has a really cool cover.
Protean Threat by the OCs. So I've been listening to that this week, and what else have I been listening to? sometimes you see the cool thing about vinyl is like you just play the same record over and over again,
Mm.
you know, and like you kind of like you get into it. And I was like, this month I'm gonna start writing down the ones so that I listen to. So the next time somebody asks me a question like
Well,
that,
there you go.
I can say I've been listening to the album Mott by Mott the Hoople. That's what I've been listening to that a lot. Mott the Hoople's Mott. Yeah.
Not
And
the
then
Hoople.
a great compilation that came out on the label the Numero Group by the Scientists, and that record's called "A Place Called Bad." So that's what I wrote down. That's what I've been listening to recently. Oh, and also Renaissance 1600 by Sheila E. So
1600.
and you're looking it up. Look it
Yeah,
up.
I'm looking it up. I got it. When I search Renaissance 1600, I get history.
That's a Prince thing. I'm a big Prince fan too.
Oh, okay. So yeah, a lot of you. So yeah, you listen to a lot of the UK stuff because yeah, there's the Mott was UK, Renaissance is English, OC's is California. Okay. All right. So yeah,
the Renaissance 1600 is the name of the album by Sheila E. And Sheila E. Is like she's American, I believe, but she's an amazing percussionist a drummer and musician in her own right. But she worked with Prince.
It's
the album that I mentioned is basically like a Prince protege album.
Yeah, it's arranged, produced, and written.
Right, but with Sheila E., she's a beast in her own right, so it's a cool combination. Some really amazingly rhythmic shit on there, and she came into her own as a vocalist, and it's an awesome album.
Wow, that's from 85.
But I love albums.
I mean, yeah, clearly. You work on them, you live, you breathe them, you have a whole shelf of them.
Yeah. But what about new shit? What is like something like of 2025 that like you're really into that you recommend to me?
Let me think, because 2025 has been a really good year for music, and I definitely say hip hop has really picked up this year. Like last year it had ups and downs, but this year's a lot of good albums coming out. I want to put down
taking notes.
There's a Clips album that came out this year.
Yes,
absolutely amazing album.
I haven't listened to it yet, but I have what's the Hell Hath No Fury? Is that the one that I have?
No, that's the from 06, I think. That
yes, that's the one that I have. It's amazing.
Yes.
And I loved it at that time. I have the CD and I bought it at the time, and I listened to it over and over again. I thought that was so great, but I did, and then I heard they had this big comeback.
Mm-hmm.
All right, is it still like about the cocaine game?
Yeah. Pusha is still doing those cocaine raps.
Oh, and Pusha T has a solo album that came out at like around like 08, 09 or what is it? I think Kanye produced it, right?
There's actually been he's had a whole solo career. Yeah, he's had
yeah, but there's one that I'm thinking of that I have. I'm just
2018.
Shitty, whatever. It's got like the barcode on the cover.
Oh yeah, that one's My Name Is My Name. Yeah,
that album's good.
Yeah, they had a lot of they had a couple of confused tracks. Yeah,
I can listen to the new Clips. I'm gonna listen to the new Clips.
New Clips album. Right. That's like very highly acclaimed for good reason. I listened to it like up and down, side to side, in and out. You want to listen to that one on streaming if you want to listen, because they don't have on the CD. They didn't get the samples cleared in time for some of the tracks though.
That sucks.
Yeah, happens.
That sucks.
There is a new. Obviously, Tyler dropped a new album. Don't Tap the Glass. You know,
awesome. Bangs, totally bangs.
Every great song. Album,
relentless.
And there's and actually Danny Brown, who's he's
great.
He's dropped a new album. Yeah, he got a new one that got released like I think like a couple weeks ago.
He's crazy.
Yeah, he's crazy.
He's smart though. He puts on like he's crazy, but he's smart as fuck.
Because this album's a lot more like, we're talking about being afraid of like, the new generation. Like this is Danny Brown really going and getting production from a lot of the artists that are like recently coming out, a lot of internet-based artists.
Right.
And you heard of a lot of them from Peggy, who he worked with before, JPEG Mafia.
But doesn't he have a whole kind of like parallel podcast career now too?
He does. He has he also had like the Danny Brown show, which was like a kind of like in-person one, and he has this whole podcast with him. So there's a lot of good rap stuff out here. I mean, another one, because I'd have to because I don't usually listen to Swans, but I can't say one way or the other, but a lot of people are hyped for the Swans album that came out this year, Birthing.
Yeah.
Um,
Cool. Good to
and
get out Michael's. You're right. Yeah.
And one last one I would put personally, I was so happy to see a Stereolab album drop this year. There's a new Stereolab album.
Oh, I didn't know they had one. That's cool. Yeah, they're great. They're great.
Yeah,
Their
because
music always sounds incredible.
there's no one like
All
them.
right.
So that's it.
Yeah,
That's
totally.
what I would say for this section.
Nice. Nice. Good. I like that. Some legacy artists. I like that. But like, cool.
Try to get a good mix in
That's
there.
nice.
So
Yeah.
so I think we're good for the podcast. Thank you for being on the show, Mr.
All right.
Harrison. Yeah, Mr. Travis
Harrison.
Harrison.
Yeah.
You answered a lot of the all the questions really I had. I mean, in one way or another. So it was really nice for you to be on the show.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me. That's awesome. So much fun. It's cool to just reflect on that time, and what a fun chat.
And for the audience out there, for all the people who are just happen to stumble upon this and they're YouTube recommended, I hope, please, I hope. Do you have any last word? Do you have any insights? Do you have just anything to say in the last 5 seconds?
No, just look me up on the old internet there. Stay in touch. Be a friend. And it's all about people, connections between people.
That's what we like to hear. So yeah. That's the end of the Patron of the Algorithm podcast, the podcast that sure is not consistent. But yeah, so that's Maple J Milk, and that's Travis Harrison. Goodbye.